Rebellious Studio presents the Mind Body Podcast with your host, Maria Angelova. Hello, Rebels, and welcome to your Mind Body Podcast with your host, me, Maria. This is your Rebellious Podcast where it is all about a strong body, calm mind, healing, and fully living. And I am thrilled to have today on board one of my tribe members, Michele Moss. And I do have to say, I met Michele. Gosh, Michele, how many years has it been?
Oh man,
Three,
more,
4?
maybe more than that.
Yeah.
Goodness.
And we met at the conference, and I have to say, when I say tribe member, Michele is one of those people that I feel that if I need something, if I need to brainstorm, I can pick up the phone and be like, hey, can I call you right now? And she'll be like, yep, call me right now. And really cool person, really smart person, and just somebody rebellious. And welcome, Michele.
Thank you for having me. Great to be here.
Absolutely. It is my pleasure. And Michele, to introduce everybody to you, I'm going to let you tell us, first of all, 3 words that pop to your mind that describe you. Don't overthink it.
I would say unique, funny, and also persistent.
I love that. All of those. All of those. And, you know, I do have to say, I mean, not to be subjective, but to me, unique goes right along with rebellious, right? Because that's what rebellious is about, being your unique self, regardless of the stereotypes and what others have to say, but being your true self. And I think that's why I like you so much. So, Michele, tell everybody, who are you and what has brought you to this part of your life?
Well, I'm Michele Moss. I have a law firm in Orlando, Florida, and I practice intellectual property law. So what has brought me to this point in my life is I decided to be an entrepreneur and step out of the comfort zone and, you know, start my own business, forge my own path. And it has been quite a journey, but it has been rewarding, and I'm still learning, but I'm still going.
I love it. We're all still learning. And I think the learning part is an ongoing process. I don't think we ever stop learning.
Yeah, for sure.
And Michele, we met at actually I would say self-development type of event, with David Nagle. And, you know, I think when we talk about tribe members and like attracts like, I definitely think that's when you bond and connect with people who think alike, act alike, grow alike, right? And I think that's why we can bond, because we have so many topics in common. You are a professional, you're an entrepreneur, you're successful, you're driven, you're also a mom, and you're balancing you're juggling a lot of balls up in the air.
Yeah, it's hard to, you know, it's one thing to say, these are my priorities, right? Like, you know, family comes first and this and that, but then you have to look at, you know, one of the things that at the seminar that we were at, they tell you, like, look at your time, look at your calendar and your bank account, look where your time and money goes. And that's going to show you what your priorities are. And that was a real wake up call for me.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting you bring this up, because I bring this often to people when they say, well, I prioritize this or that. And I tell them, well, look at your credit card statements and look where your highest expenses are, and look if what you're saying and what your expenses reflect, if they align. And do they or do they not? Michele, talk about entrepreneurship and self-growth.
Yeah, I think when I first started, you know, so I'm an attorney, so I'm looking at this very, you know, kind of non-emotionally, linearly, when I started my business, thinking I don't really have to work on myself. I just have to figure out, you know, how to get clients, right? How do I get clients? How do I get clients? I already know how to do legal. How do I get clients? But as you go along, you realize that, you know, you're kind of your own worst enemy. And the only boundaries are the ones that you set, you know, for yourself. So understanding that, and kind of, you know, they talk a lot about figuring out where you are. Like, you know, you got to start where you are. Well, I thought I was over here, but I was really down here. So it's like, oh, that's what they mean about where you really are, right?
Entrepreneurship will quickly show you where you are and what is the gap between where you think you are and where you really are, or where you want to be. And And, you know, I think that's why, I mean, tell me if you agree, that's why I think so many of us entrepreneurs get on this growth journey, because we all go with, you know, I thought I have a corporate experience, I have education, I'm just going to go out there and the clients are going to line up to work with me. And it's like, where are the clients? Why are they not showing up, right?
Right.
And you quickly have to figure out that it all starts with you. You know, I say leadership starts with you and within you. And
for sure,
it's great that we prioritize family and business, but where are we on that priority list? So talk about this, Michele. How has your priority list shifted as your mindset has shifted?
I've learned that it's okay. I think growing up, my mom, you know, it was a lot of sacrifice, right? You're supposed to do, you're a wife, you're a mother, you're supposed to, you know, do everything for your family, do everything for the business, do everything for your clients. And then it's like, well, where are you in all of that? Right. You know, you start to feel, you know, resentful or unappreciated, but it's because you're not taking time for yourself. And so that was a huge thing for me to understand. I need to take, you know, and it's okay and not feel guilty about that, right? About taking care of yourself, because if I take time for myself, I can be the best me for my husband, for my son, you know, for my clients, instead of like, if I'm angry and, you know, nasty all the time, then, you know, not being much good to anyone. And sometimes all we really need to do, and we think that the world is going to fall apart if we just take a little bit of time, you know, for ourselves, or take some time out, or, you know, meditate or relax and do what we want to do, and just tell everyone, hey, I need to have, you know, I need to have some time for me. And, you know, you think something's going to happen when you do that, and everything just keeps on going, you know, so you're like, I could have been doing this the whole time.
And would you say it keeps going, and it keeps going even better?
Even better. Yeah. Because you feel better about yourself. It's so good. What I think it's so easy to get wrapped up. I mean, I'm type A, you know how that is. Being type A, you know, you can get so wrapped up in your work, right? You get so wrapped up in your tasks and your clients, and
when you love it, right? When you enjoy
it. Yeah, it's like there's always something to do, right? You know, so it's hard to, but you know, to take your calendar and say, hey, I have to take this time for me. I have to, you know, take a little bit of time and look at my dreams, where, you know, envision myself. Goal setting. Like, I used to think of goal setting as I take a little pen and paper, and then I write some stuff down and go in a drawer, or maybe it goes on the little Post-it board. And then every now and then I would look at it, but I wasn't taking any real action towards any of those goals, right? So now I realize you really have to figure out what you want, sit with that, look at it every day, see, you know, what little things do I have to do to get me towards that? And that takes time.
It takes time. And you know what else I love that you brought up? Action. Yeah. Because it's not just coming up with a dream. Exactly. And it's in going after the dream, it's taking the action. And a lot of times the action is outside the comfort zone.
Yes. Yes.
Right? And I think that's actually exactly what pushes us towards mindset growth and shifting our mindset, because it's uncomfortable and we don't trust ourselves, and we have those self-doubts and the fears and the worries, and how am I going to pay the bills? There is not a paycheck coming, right? All of those things start playing in your head. And talk about action, especially action outside the comfort zone. How do you deal with that? Because that's part of the journey, right?
Yeah. And I've learned I do a couple different things. So I have some goals that I'll set in the morning when I'm doing my morning, after I do my meditation and prayer and stuff, and I'll write those down. And then I kind of look at them and break them down more later and say, okay, for this thing, what is one thing I can do on that today? Like just one thing, especially if it's something I've, you know, that's real uncomfortable that I'm trying to put off. It's like, what's something I can do to just get me closer, you know, to the end. So I try to break it down into steps. And then I realize when I'm kind of just sitting there and I'm like, I know what I have to do, but I just don't want to do it. I get to that point where you're like, I just have to do it. You know, I'm stuck. I'm making myself stuck, right? Because
you're aware that you're stopping yourself.
Right. So I'm stopping myself. So sometimes it's just as simple as, and then that's when I look, you know, for mindset growth and look at, listen to podcasts and things like that, because they'll tell you, hey, you know, you just got to do it. You know, we know it's hard and it's scary and, you know, the terror barrier and all that. But once you actually get it done, you're going to feel so much better, and you'll actually be like, why was I so afraid of that?
And I think that's common for so many of us, right? And I think having the realization that we're all dealing with that, right? We're not unique in, we laugh with clients and I tell them, I'm sorry, you're not unique in that way, because we all go through that, and we all really set up the limitations within ourselves.
Yeah.
That's why the mindset shift is so important, because we get stuck in our own head.
Exactly. It's not, and so sometimes I just need to, it's great to get an outside perspective. That's why you have a coach, right? Because they'll look at what I'm doing and be like, so what's the problem? Like, why can't you do that? Just
You're like,
do that today.
Problem.
Can't you see how horrible this is? How difficult. Why can't you just do that? Like, let's have that done by, the end of this week. Have that done. And then, it really forces you, like, okay, I really have to do this. And, sometimes you have to be pulled, through, sometimes you can get pushed or pulled, one way or another. But it's great to really set a goal, and then to understand, to set action steps with that goal. I think that's what I was missing before, is just, writing the goals down, looking at them. Okay, that really does nothing unless you start taking some concrete action towards, how do you get through those things?
Yeah, that's huge. And something else that I'm a fan of that you brought up, coaching, right? You mentioned coaches.
Right.
And I am a huge proponent of coaches. I constantly have coaches. I have, coaches for mindset, coaches for physical training. I invest heavily into coaching, and even my husband sometimes he's like, I don't understand why you keep doing that. And
Mine says the same thing.
It's you keep pushing outside of the comfort zone, then you need that person to be like, why is this complicated? Why is this hard? Yeah. And you're like, wow. And then you start going through your list of excuses. And as you're going, oh, wow, I'm in my own way. Talk about the importance of coaches and how you have leveraged coaching for your development, for your personal growth in development.
It really, I think the coaching helps you. A lot of times we're always looking for the how, right? How's this supposed to happen? How am I going to get paid? How am I going to get clients? And it's like, you don't have to worry about that. You just have to, keep moving forward every day. And that means, knowing what your action steps are, knowing what your goals are, and then knowing what actions specifically you need to take to move that forward. I always would, at the end of the day, I'll look at my phone and I look at my email. So I'm like, what did I actually do? Who did I call? Who did I communicate with today? What did I actually do to, move myself? Or did I just do busy work, to kind of make it seem like I'm busy, but not. So coaching really helps you kind of, like you said, make it so simple. When they ask you, well, why haven't you done this? And you start telling them how difficult it is. And they're just like, okay, well, why don't you just do it? Like, as it can be as simple as, hey, you know what, at 2:00 on, Friday, you're going to do that. And then right. I'm going to call you at 3, and it's like, okay, so now I really have to get this.
Now you have to do it because you're accountable to somebody else.
Right. And with yourself, you can always, I'm busy. Put it off some more. But I think the accountability is huge to kind of help push you through. And then, they help you see that it really is simple, and it really is you just kind of holding yourself back, that you can do everything you need to do to get to where you need to be. It's not impossible.
Yes. You're hitting up on so many things. Maybe I should be taking notes, but you brought up excuses, procrastination, right?
Yeah.
Which are common things for many of us. And once again, these are the things that we usually do because we're not comfortable doing something, and we do a lot of busy work, and we'll do everything except the one thing that will actually move you forward.
Right.
Because there's discomfort. And prioritization, you talked about that. Talk to us, how does your self-care and the things that you do to keep your cup full helps you with supporting your mindset, supporting your personal growth, as well as moving forward?
The way I look at it is, when you have a negative, or when you're just unhappy, when you're not in a attitude of gratitude, when you're not being grateful, everything seems harder. It's just, to me, it's like there's a cloud over you. And then I have to start thinking, well, wait a minute, I have so much to be grateful for. I have my husband, I have my son, I have this great business, I have clients, I have, I have a future, things are great, but it, try to be the glass is half full type person. And that kind of, at least to me, it gives you energy, it helps you. It's like, this, I can get this done. I can do this. And it's really difficult, but I feel to stay in gratitude, especially when you're going through, because problems happen, right? Things are going to go wrong, life's going to happen, but you still have to try to see, well, what's the good in this, or where's the truth in this, or where's the lesson in this, and just keep moving forward. And I think it's so much easier to do that when you're being grateful for what you have. When I remember when I was when I was single, I was watching this documentary, and this woman, and she has half of a body. Like, she literally just had like her torso and her arms, and she had a business, and she was married, and she had 2 kids. And I'm thinking to myself, what's my excuse? Like, I got like a full body, and I don't have no business, I don't have no husband, I don't have no kid. I'm like, what is my problem? But that just, it's kind of puts it in perspective, right? Because it's like, no matter what excuses or problems you may say, or it's holding you back, or no matter how you may say, oh, I have it so hard, there's always an example of someone who's had it even worse, and who's still grateful, and they've done, managed to overcome. So it's like, that's really the key. How do I keep my being in gratitude, so I can move forward?
That's a fantastic example. I just had a conversation with somebody on the team, and we were going back and forth. And I said, oh, I don't know about that. She was pushing me outside of my comfort zone. And she said, well, I'm sorry to be saying this. And I said, no, this has really nothing to do with you. This has to do with me, because what you're asking me to do is outside of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
And we were texting, I said, #perspective. You have a different perspective on the exact same thing we're talking about than the perspective I have. So for you, it's not a big deal. For me, it's like, oh, wow, I don't know about this, right? So just having that simple conversation with a different perspective, it's like, oh yeah, awareness, fear. Okay, yes. What action do I need to take to move past this?
Yeah. And that's the key. I think I always tell myself, finish. In other words, I start something, it's like, just finish, just get through to the end. It does. I mean, if it ends up being a failure or whatever, great. At least I know what not to do, for the next time. And that's why I tell people all the time, I'm like, hey, I have failed plenty of times, but I'm still here. So I've learned a lot. That's all that really means.
Let's talk about that. Failures, right? So
right.
Failures generally, in a lot of cultures, it's not good to fail, right?
Right.
And that's judged, and that's viewed negatively.
Right.
As an entrepreneur, you quickly have to learn how to deal with, I would say, perceived failures, right?
Yes, perceived.
What I have learned is that everything that has not gone my way has not gone my way for my good long term.
Right.
Now, in the moment, it feels like the earth is falling apart.
Yeah.
And, I need to have my self-pity party, and nothing is working out, and I don't understand this, and I don't know that. And I think that you kind of hinted to that, right? When we get into those self-pity moments, which we all have as humans, what do you do to raise you up?
Yeah.
So let's talk about the value that you have found in failure, or maybe even share an example of that. And let's talk about, give me your perspective on self-care and filling your cup full to deal with those moments when things don't go the way you expect them or you want them to go.
With me, it's a whole pride thing, or how do I want to be seen, right? And the reality is, everyone makes mistakes. We say that to our kids, right, all the time. Like, oh, my son's, when I'm trying to help him with his homework, and he gets so upset. I think he gets that from me, right? He's mad at himself because he doesn't understand, and I'm like, it's okay, son, you're learning. It's okay if you don't understand it right now. But I think we all kind of fall into that. Like, we don't want someone else to see us fail, or we want to pretend like, we're just coasting through life, and, everything's awesome. But that's part of being real, and part of being authentic is, being vulnerable, right? To say, hey, I'm not perfect. I've screwed lots of things up, and when you try to hide your failure, that only leads to like worse things, right? So it's like, put that out there. When your team screws up, you want them to tell you, right? You don't want them to hide it from you and and then it becomes worse. You let them know, hey, I screwed up on this, shine a light on it so that they understand, hey, it's okay, to be human. It's okay to make a mistake, and we can learn from it, and we don't have to hide it. We can shine a light on it so that we all can learn from it. And we can move forward. I remember I got fired on a case, and, it happens all the time, right? The client's just like, you know what? I'm done with you. I'm gonna get this other person. So at the time I'm like, God, I got fired, like, this is really awful. I stink, but it turned out that case ended up going really off the rails, and for many other reasons. And I ended up getting another opportunity that was far better than that. So even though to me at the time, it seemed like I was losing out on a really great opportunity, it was really kind of the best, I dodged a bullet on that one.
That's key, because I tell people, especially entrepreneurs, you lose a client, you lose income, and as entrepreneurs, we don't know what the paycheck for the month will be, right?
Right.
You hope you're going to be able to pay the mortgage and this and that, right? And it's scary when you lose a client, right?
Yeah.
And what I have learned to believe, would love to hear your thoughts on that. And I tell this to my clients, is every door that shuts for a reason, and another better door opens. So when a client leaves, there is a reason, which once again, short term stinks and it doesn't feel good, and you start getting into your head. But long term, you're like, oh, wow, that worked out so much better. And then somebody, it opens the space for a bigger and better opportunity. But you can react in different ways, or respond to different ways to that client loss, or whatever the situation is. It doesn't have to be a client loss, something unfavorable. And just believe that everything that happens to you happens for your reason and happens for your highest good.
Right. Yeah. Know that, I the person I am now is because of everything I've gone through. Right. Yeah. So it's like, I'm who I am now because of everything that's happened, good or bad, perceived to me. But when you look back, sometimes it takes time, because it takes the lens of looking back now on, what we thought was failures, or this was awful, right, or how am I, at the time, how am I ever going to recover from this? But now that you look back on it, you can see, hey, that taught me some things, or I figured out what I was really made of, or, I really learned a lot from that, or I was able to grow. And one of the things is I think sometimes when I was about to lose a client, when I thought I was going to lose a client, I would be, doing anything to try and keep them. And then I realized, if a client doesn't value you, they're never going to value you. It doesn't matter if you give your service away for free, they're still not going to be, satisfied. So learning that lesson was key. It's like, some of them you do need to let go. They don't value your service, and you really have to let them go.
Yeah, that is so liberating. I went to a conference a couple of weeks ago, and they asked the question to the audience. They said, how many of you have clients that you don't like? And there were a lot of hands up, and I was like, and he pointed to me, and I was in the front row. He goes, she's unique. I said, I am on this journey of doing what I love to do. And I'm very particular about the type of people I associate with, whether it's clients, whether it's friends, who is in the tribe. And speaking of that, Michele, let's transition to tribe. Talk about, do you use that term tribe? Because I use that a lot.
I always say that those are my people, but same thing.
Okay. Yeah. Let's talk about the importance of tribe, or your people, in this growth journey.
It's so important to feed yourself and go to conferences and be around people who are, trying to go after the same thing and who have the same mindset, right? Because if you're outside of that a lot in the world, there's a lot of negativity, there's a lot of, you get people that get jaded after a while. And, it's hard, when you're in that, you have to be constantly guarding your mind, right? You have to not, let that thinking get in. So you're always kind of on your guard, because if you're not consciously rejecting it, right, you're accepting it. So it's great when you can have your tribe and get around your people, and you don't have to do that, right? You don't have to try to, sit there and really concentrate on rejecting, their negativity or their bad views. It's all the positive stuff. So that is, we all need, that kind of environment to help us grow and to just help us think, hey, I'm not crazy, right? Like when sometimes you think, am I crazy? Like everybody else is like, you are so nuts. Like, what are you talking about?
You're totally normal and fitting in. Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think the fear of judgment is something that stops so many of us from going after what we want, because whatever it is that is taught to us, it doesn't make sense. It's comments are passed and they really affect us because we're humans and we have emotions, and having those people that are like, get crazier, go for it, even when you're scared. It's so important to have those people who, I say sometimes it takes one person who believes in you a little bit more than you do, right? Which is what, again, going back to coaching, that helps, or your tribe, to where they say, oh yes, you can do this, where you're like, I don't know, really out there, right?
Yeah, where everyone else is, they agree with you. If you say like, I can't do it, they're like, yeah, you're right.
They're like, right. Or people,
and you're like, okay, I don't need this.
Then you stay stuck in the comfort zone and away from that goal that you have on that sticky note on the wall.
They're saying, why are you doing that? Like, that's the other thing, right? It's like, why keep striving? Or, you know what I mean? Some people say, hey, you got it good right now, right? You're successful. You have a business, what more do you want? Why do you need to scale? Why do you need to grow your business? Why do you need to, do all this self-growth? What's that? And you know what that's their fear of, missing out or being left behind, right? Because they're seeing you growing, they're seeing you reaching towards something. And sometimes that can be threatening, honestly, to people.
I say it shakes up their comfort zone too, right? Yeah. Especially if there are people close to you. They're like, I did not sign up to step outside of the comfort zone, but you're like earthquaking the comfort zone, and it becomes uncomfortable for them. Yeah.
Well, and it comes uncomfortable to, sometimes you're like, I say sometimes you got to let those clients go. Sometimes you got to let those friends go, right? Sometimes you got to let
exactly going to say
those family members go, and get to, like, I always try to hang out with people who are above, like, like you, who are above me, right? Because I'm trying to raise, I'm trying to bring myself up. I'm trying to bring myself up. So people that have successful businesses, network with them, hang around them, who are growing their business, who are moving forward, who are really doing something, right? Like, let me be the, I want to be the lowest one in the room, right? Because I'm trying to come up to that level. I'm not trying to be, well, I'm the best person in here, because there's no way, you don't grow that way. And so it's uncomfortable for me, because I'm like, wow, I'm not at this level, but what am I doing in here with these people?
But I do think that this comfort level, right, is there for all of us, right? Because we can get into our head that somebody is more ahead of us, that comparison trap. That's a dangerous,
and that's a huge trap. Yeah.
And I think that's something you gain awareness. And the minute you catch yourself, that's something I have learned. The minute I catch myself comparing myself to somebody else, just time out, right? And then just really ground myself. And that's when I use self-care, right? To ground myself to, I'm exactly where I need to be at this point of time, but yet inspire, surround yourself with people whose lifestyle you want to live, right? People who are growing. And I would say not people who are just successful in their business, but I would say people who are growing in here, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Because the people, when this grows, that reflects in all aspects of life, business, personal, professional, right? And I think you cannot grow in any way unless this shifts.
Agreed. And it's great to be around those people that are not, don't think that there's a limit or a ceiling, right? Yes. They just feel like, hey, we can keep, we can keep building, we can keep going, we can, you can get whatever you want, you can live the life you want. People always look at me crazy because they're just like, you're an attorney that likes your job, like, what? There's a lot of unhappy. Yeah. They're like, what's wrong? You don't like doing law, do you? It's like, well, no, actually I do. Because I get to choose my clients, right? Some of them like, hey, I got to let you go. I got to let them go. But, it really is, you can do that, but that's the freedom, right? Because people are like, well, I just have to take whatever client, comes in the door, and I need those clients, and I got to have them, they make themselves miserable. Whereas if they would let those clients go, everything would be so much better, right? they would make room for the good clients. That's what I used to tell myself when I had like a client that I was not wanting to let go, just hanging on to. Then I was like, hey, the good clients can't get in if I still got the bad clients. Like I gotta get them out. I gotta make some space for the good ones.
You're exactly right. But that's a big shift in mindset, and that's a big shift in us, right? It's not has nothing to do with the clients. It's a shift within ourselves.
I don't know if this has happened to you, but I've had people call me on the phone, and then I'll tell them, here's my fees or whatever, and they'll be like, "What? I'm gonna call LegalZoom." Just hang up or whatever. And you know what? Before I used to be like, oh no, maybe I should lower my prices. Now I go, woo.
That one
did not need that person. You know what I'm saying?
Something like, similar happened
hooray,
to somebody. Came for a consultation, and we talked about prices, and she got upset at me. And I said, well, there are plenty of Pilates studios that you can go to. There
you go.
She said, but nobody asked me about my injuries, and nobody asked me the questions that you asked me. So she kind of she answered her own question for why my prices are higher.
Well, what their value is. She's answered it herself, right?
So I just sat there, and after she finished her speech, she was like, oh,
I get it.
Right? That is why my prices are higher, because you get a different level of value and service when you come here. But that's another piece of mindset growth, believing in your own self-worth and value and what you're offering to people, right? Because especially for entrepreneurs, that's a big sticky point.
Yes. And I remember when I first started, I was thinking, what do I charge? Like, how do I come up with this? And then I was listening, it was a podcast or something I was listening to, and they were like, you know what? You can charge whatever you want. You charge whatever you need to charge, because you have to set your value. If you don't value, it's like, do you value your own? Do you feel uncomfortable asking for what you're worth? Right. And, look around you at what you're providing, what your competitors are providing. It's so easy to see, what the difference is. So why is it uncomfortable for you to ask for that? And, say, hey, this is what my service is worth. And when I heard that, I was like, oh my God, they are right. Like I just need to do it. And, I've never had a single person, except for that guy who called on the phone, but people I'm talking to, they've never been like, oh my God, do people actually pay that? Like, no one has ever said that. Like, they've just been like, oh, okay, that's, great. Can I get a payment plan? Or, but people aren't just like, oh my God, I can't believe
that's what
no way. Yeah.
The only thing I would add to that is, I do believe you have to be comfortable with what you charge. Because if you're charging something you don't believe it's worth it,
right,
then you can feel the misaligned energy when you're talking.
Yes.
So
that
you
is
have
key.
to be comfortable with whatever price point you're setting for yourself, right?
For sure. Yeah, you have to get comfortable with it. If you're not comfortable with it, you got to get comfortable with it, right? Because it's like, if you're going to ask people to pay that, you have to be like, this is, you can't, like you said, that's a double binding message, right? Yeah, because you're in your mind, you're like, I hope they pay this or whatever, that's what they're getting, energy. Right?
Yeah, you can feel the energy on the other side if somebody is not confident in whatever it is that they charge. So, and once again, I'll bring that to mindset and self-growth and all the things that we spoke about. Michele, to wrap it up, tell us, what's Michele's regular self-care routine?
Oh man, it needs to be more regular, but so I have to get up. I try to get up earlier than the rest of the family, so I can go work out. And then after I do my workout, then I I go through my affirmations and my meditations and do my deep breathing, and then just kind of sit there. What I noticed that it really affects me when I don't do it is when I just take 10 minutes and sit there and think about all the things that I want, what it looks like when I have the house that I want, the car that I want, and just to sit there and visualize. It's really powerful. And if you do that every day, it really is. I mean, it's just 10 minutes, just sitting there, just doing nothing else but thinking about, the things that you want in your life and your goals and what it's going to feel like when you reach those goals. And that helps so much, because it's like we're constantly trying to do work and strive, but we have to take the time. It's like, hey, how is it going to look when I really get there? How's it going to look when I'm in that house, when I'm in that car? How's it going to look? How's my house going to look when, all my staff that I'm going to hire? I mean, I even had it down to what the names of my staff members were going to be. I mean, that's probably going too far. That's probably going too far, but, but that's how detailed I had, I thought it out. And so that's, to me, is, you got to win the morning. If I can get, a workout in and get my meditation done and my prayer and sit there and focus on, goals and what I want and set up my steps for the day, because I find if I don't do that, the emails and the phone calls and the whatever just kind of takes over, right? And then at the end of the day, I'm like, what happened to the stuff I was supposed to do today? So that helps me. And I like to take every time, I don't have any lost time. So if I'm in the car, I'm listening to something, either music or a podcast. If I'm, washing dishes or something, I'm listening to something. It's like I take those times. To me, like when I have to drive somewhere, that's time for me to get in a podcast or get in,
do something that fuels you. Yeah, I do. And I would just add to what you said, is that's what I tell people. It does not have to be a full hours or a 2-hour self-care routine, right? But if you take 5, 10, 15 minutes to yourself and make that a priority, that's going to be a huge game changer. And you might not believe it, but just try it for a week and just see how it works, because people are astonished of the results that they see. And I also do have to say, I love the visualization that you talked about. And for those who are not familiar with visualization, when you emotionally connect to whatever it is visualizing, which is what Michele was talking about, that's where our energy changes, right? And I'm sure everybody has heard about the law of attraction, right? We attract at the same level that we vibrate. So super cool stuff. Michele, you started with saying that you're unique. That's one of the words. And I said, that's kind of rebellious. So what is your definition of rebellious?
Oh, to me, rebellious is like, you're going against the norm, right? You're rebelling against the rules. The society, you make your own rules. You make your own, we make our own economy. We make our own rules, whatever it's like for everybody else. It doesn't have to be what that is for me, right? We make our, we're not victims of anything, right? We make our lives, we make it the way we want it, right? And, I think in life, what you look for, you'll find. And if you give, if you put good out, you get good back. So I just kind of focus on that. Like, what am I putting out? Am I being mean and nasty, or am I being good? Because that's what I'm going to get back.
Good and kind. Yes, I love that. Michele, one piece of advice. If you had to give somebody one piece of advice, what will be Michele's advice to anybody?
To be vulnerable and to understand that mindset and the way you look at things is intimately connected to your success. And successful people, doesn't matter who they are, rappers or whoever, if you listen and they'll talk about how they thought they visualized where they are now when they didn't have it. That's what they were doing. They were thinking about this day. And when I hear, sometimes I'll hear those lyrics of people thinking about that. I think Drake had a song. He's like, this is some stuff I thought about when I was broke. The power of the mind is no joke, or something like that, but that's, when he says that, it's like, it resonated with me, because you're like, everyone who is successful, they have done just that. They have thought it and visualized it before and gone after it before they got it. So the picture in your mind has to be really clear, and you really have to visualize it. And then, if you see it in your mind, you hold it in your hand.
Life. Love it, love it, love it. Michele, who are the people that you help with? Really quickly, what kind of problems can you solve for me?
Anything to do with intellectual property. So if you're accused of infringement, trademark, copyright, if you need to protect your creative work, if you're a creator, you have video or audio content, anything that's written that you want to protect, I can help you with that.
And how do people get in touch with you, Michele?
They can find me online at www.johnsonmosslaw.com, and they can schedule a free 15-minute telephone consultation through that, or paid consultations also.
Okay, and we're going to add that as part of sharing the podcast. Michele, I loved having you on. Thank you so much for your energy and for your vulnerability and openness and sharing your journey. And I'm really excited for people to hear that and get to know you. And thanks for being a part of my tribe. I really value and appreciate you. And I'm grateful for you taking the time to do this with me today. Thank you.
No, thank you for having me. You're an inspiration. So keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you, vice versa. Thank you all for listening. Let us know if you have any questions for Michele, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Stay rebellious. Bye. Can't get enough of those rebellious conversations? Do make sure you subscribe, like, and share with your friends.